Hi, 5th graders. Today we are talking about Lesson 17 of the 5th grade textbook, St. Peter and Paul, the Apostles. George and Sarah are cousins. They are both in 5th grade and they love playing games outside. George likes soccer and Sarah likes dancing. They both love going to church every Sunday.
Sarah, George, it's time for bed.
Coming, Mom.
Mom, can you tell us a story before we go to bed?
Of course. I'll tell you the story about two very important saints, St. Peter and St. Paul.
Yay! I can't wait to learn about them.
First, let's learn about St. Peter. Do you both know anything about him?
I know that Peter means rock.
You're right. His original name was Simon, and it was Jesus who changed his name from Simon to Peter. Peter, the son of Jonah from Galilee, and he had a brother named Andrew, who was also an apostle.
I didn't know that Peter had a brother.
Yes, he had a brother just like you. Peter was also the witness of the main events in the public life of Jesus. Peter was there at the time of the transfiguration of Jesus. He was there at the cure of the daughter of Jairus, and Peter was there when Jesus walked upon the waters.
So Peter was there for all important events in Jesus' life?
Yes, Peter was there for all of it. Peter was the first apostle to know about the resurrection of Jesus. After the resurrection of Jesus, Jesus gave Peter the special authority to lead the church. Peter was appointed as the head of the church.
Was Peter the head of the apostles?
Right again. Peter was the head of the 12 apostles. It was also Peter who led the early church. Peter spoke as the representative of the apostles. Peter was the apostle who first preached the gospel to the Gentiles. Peter was crucified in Rome in 67 AD under the leadership of Emperor Nero.
Was Peter crucified because he was a Christian?
Yeah, they killed Peter because he was a Christian. The mortals of Peter remain in the Vatican Hills, where the Basilica of St. Peter is built. St. Peter was also the first pope.
Mom, can you tell us the story about St. Paul?
Of course. St. Paul was born at Tarsus in 1 AD. His previous name was Saul. Do you know what Saul means?
Saul means that which is asked to God.
That's right, George. After his conversion to Christianity, his name was Paul. Do you know what Paul means?
Paul means small.
Good job, Sarah. So in the beginning, Paul worked to persecute Christians. One day, on the way to Damascus, Jesus converted Saul and renamed him Paul. The words of Christ, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," was the turning point in the life of Paul. Paul felt his conversion and preached the gospel everywhere without fear. St. Paul said, "It is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me." Do you know when his conversion took place?
I think it was around 36 AD.
That's right. Do you know who St. Paul is known as?
St. Paul is known as the apostle of the Gentiles.
Yeah. St. Paul also made 3 missionary journeys, and there are 14 epistles in the Bible attributed to Paul. St. Paul was persecuted under Emperor Nero around 67 AD.
So Saints Peter and Paul were both martyred around 67 AD by Emperor Nero?
They both died around the same time. What did you both learn from St. Peter and St. Paul?
St. Peter and Paul bore witness to the Christian life through their life of faith.
We too should try to be the models of the Christian life and follow Jesus.
Nice job, guys! Let's try to be great models of Christianity for others.
Worship. According to the tradition of Antioch, there is great importance given to the apostles of Christ in the liturgy. The feast of St. Peter and Paul is celebrated in the church on the 29th of June. The 13-day fast is observed in the Malankara church in honor of these saints. This is known as the Fast of the Apostles. The feast of the conversion of St. Paul is celebrated in the church on the 25th of January. We commemorate St. Peter on the first day of the new Sunday, the Sunday after Easter. We sing the following hymn in honor of Peter the Apostle in the Holy Mass after the reading of the Gospel.
He did cast and has caught Peter fisherman, and had asked him to leave his job of catching fish. Cast your net joyfully to catch all men, so that they may enter the world of lasting life. Simon did cast his net in wrath. Many indeed left worshipping gods, and they obtained life before the Lord through their faith.
We sing the hymn Preaching of Paul, Paulosus Liha, in the Holy Kurbano, before the reading of the Epistle of St. Paul. Life Witness. St. Peter and St. Paul built up the church and made her big. They bore witness to the Christian life through their life of faith. We will also become lofty models of Christian life if we hold on to the hands of Jesus, like them, and go forward through our persecutions and our oppositions. Let's memorize today's Bible verse. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Let's do some questions. What are the indications the Bible gives that St. Peter is the head of the apostles? Describe the martyrdom of Saint Peter. From where do you chiefly get knowledge about Saint Paul? Describe the historical background of Saint Paul. How was the conversion of Saint Paul? What was the attitude of Saint Paul towards the Christian after his conversion? Describe the missionary seal of Saint Paul. Activity: learn the 14 epistles of Saint Paul in the right order.
Okay, Sarah, time for bed. We can hear another story later. Sweet dreams.
Good night, Mom. We love you and can't wait for another story.